Hi everyone. So today's video and the next two videos are actually going to be a little bit of a different format. They were recorded kind of a while ago. I mentioned before I would republish my my videos on my breast reduction, and I took them and I edited them all down and condensed and took down all the bits of me being like, oh, what did my notes say? So it's a little bit easier to digest. With that, there's still 3 parts. I think there were 5 parts initially and I didn't even finish. The 5 parts got broken down into 2, and then I'm going to film part 3 coming up here. But this is part 1. This was filmed 3 years ago, I think. And so I'm a little more awkward on camera. It's taken some editing, but I think it's a little bit better now. And then I look entirely different. So buckle up, my dudes. If this is not what you're here for, this is not your kind of content, that's cool. I haven't decided if I'm releasing all the videos back to back to back and doing it for the next 2 weeks after today, or if I'm going to space it out and alternate with other things. So we'll see. If next week it's the same thing, then expect the finale, the final installment, the week following. But this is basically just my explanation of my breast reduction story and why I got a breast reduction and the steps I took to get a breast reduction. If you have any questions specifically, especially if I don't answer them, please leave them down below, because I still have to film the 3rd installment, and so I'm probably going to procrastinate that quite a bit. So, but let me know, and if this isn't your thing, that's totally okay. Come back later and we'll have something else, or maybe there will be something in this end screen for you. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in by. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you like it, comment. Like I said, I don't know. I'm rambling now, so let's get to it.
I was a 34G, which, for those of you who don't know bra sizes, that's pretty massive, and I'm not a big person. My measurement right here is about 29 inches. And so having a G cup size is a lot of weight. And I've always felt very aware of my breast size, especially growing up. By the time I was 13, I was outgrowing double D cup sizes, which basically just meant all the fun stores my friends were going to were too small for me. And so I had to go to department stores instead. And it was always a very stressful event for me. It was always something that I frequently went shopping with my mom and would just cry in the dressing room because it was so stressful. When I was about 11 or 12, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is basically when your spine curves weird. Your spine is naturally supposed to be a little curvy, but mine does this weird S shape. And I went to a lot of back specialists and wore a back brace for about a year or 2. When I was about 15, I went to another specialist, and she, like me, was also kind of a bustier woman, and suggested, hey, I know you're 15 right now, I don't think you should go into this right now. When you're older, you may want to look into a breast reduction. It's a surgery where they basically just remove a portion of your breast tissue, and it makes it easier for you to go about your daily life, whether it's exercising or back pain that you're having issues with, whatever it is. It makes it a little easier for you to go through your daily life. And at the time, like I said, I was 15. There's not really a whole lot that a 15-year-old wants to do to spend 6 weeks not able to hang out with people or do things. And so I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll deal with it later. She also did talk about the likelihood that I would be unable to breastfeed after the procedure, and I was like, I'm 15, who cares if I can breastfeed? So it kind of just got put on a back burner. During last summer, I was hanging out with some friends, and it was always generally pretty common that someone would notice, like, oh, you have a lot of boob tissue. And, you know, we were talking about that, and somehow it got brought up that somebody in the group wanted a breast reduction, and it had been mentioned to me before, like I said, but it wasn't something I was actively considering. And now that someone brought it up, now that I was 22 and living on my own and paying my own bills I'm paying my own bills, I realized that it was something that I could potentially do. And so I started looking into what exactly would entail for me and what exactly a breast reduction is. So basically, depending on the type of reduction you get, there are a couple different ways to do it. One of the most common for people who are getting a reduction for like pain issues is what's called an anchor incision. And the reason it's called that is because when your scars are closed up and everything, it basically looks like an anchor. On each side, you get a circle around the nipple, a line going straight down, and then all the way underneath there's a line. And mine stretches to about right here. And this incision, depending on whether you get a nipple graft or if they just adjust the nipple, it's very dependent on your measurements. So a reduction mammoplasty is what it's called professionally. It's done by a plastic surgeon. So technically the only major surgery I've ever had is plastic surgery, but because it is frequently used for health benefits like reducing weight off your back and allowing you to be able to exercise and stuff, it can be covered by insurance. I realized while I was doing my research before my reduction, there weren't a whole lot of 20-something-year-olds talking about their experience. Most of the people I found were people who were more in the middle age range of their lives and maybe had had kids or other things. And so I felt like I couldn't fully relate to some of the struggles that they said they dealt with, because I knew that I wouldn't be dealing with, wow, I'm having a really hard time recovering well because I'm 40. I knew that most of my struggles would be, I'm 23 or 22 at the time and couldn't really figure out what to be concerned about. So today's video, I'm going to kind of talk about how to find a plastic surgeon, what exactly my insurance needed from me. I'm in the US. I had the procedure done in Idaho. I'm covered by my parents' insurance. There was actually very little for me personally to do in dealing with getting the insurance to take care of things. So the first step is finding a surgeon. And there were two sources that were super helpful. One was my dad, which you won't be able to get as easily, help from as easily as I did. The other one, which I will leave a link below for you, Mikey from Glam and Gore had a video talking about her experience with plastic surgery. And she kind of talks a little bit about how she should have gone about finding a plastic surgeon. And I watched that video about when it came out, which was way before I was looking into a plastic surgeon. But she talked about the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which is basically a website where you can type in either your area or a doctor you're looking into. And if you type in your area, like if you say San Francisco, California, then it'll bring up all the plastic surgeons who are registered in the American Society of Plastic Surgery. Plastic surgeons. I keep looking over here because I have it written down on my notes right here, and I keep wanting to call it an American Association of like plastic surgery, and that's the wrong name. But the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, if you search the area, it'll bring up a list of all the doctors in your area who are registered with them. So the benefits of being registered with the American Society of Plastic Surgeons is you can actually call the society up and be like, hey, I'm looking at this doctor. Can you tell me what kind of rating they have? Can you tell me about them? And they'll walk you through it. And so it's a really good way to background check the doctors you're looking at. I was deciding between two different doctors. The first one I called, the receptionist was kind of rude, and I had a question about insurance or something, and she was like, well, and I was like, well, that was no help, and you were kind of rude. So I crossed them off the list, and then later when I was checking again, because I was like, well, maybe the receptionist just had a bad day, I'll double check. I went online to the society's website, and the doctor wasn't there. And I don't think a receptionist is necessarily indicative of something like that, but it did feel like, yeah, I definitely won't go here then. And I actually ended up going with the other doctor I was looking at, and I had a pretty good experience, and I think he answered all the questions I had really well. So you kind of have to hunt around a little bit. There's a lot of research involved, and there's a lot of doing your own homework to try and figure out exactly if someone will work for you. When you go in for your first appointment, your doctor will probably show you pictures of this is past patients that I've dealt with and past surgeries I've done, and these are the results, the before and after pictures. And that's good. You actually want to see stuff like that, because especially if they have a lot of those, it can kind of show you exactly how many times they've done the surgery. So insurance is a complicated thing, and it varies depending on who you're covered by, if you're covered by someone, and what country you're in. So if you're not in the US, I'm sorry, this next part's going to be kind of useless for you. But I recommend calling your insurance company and talking to them about it and saying, hey, look, here are my issues. I'm dealing with someone in this, this, and this. I would like to look into this operation. Can you tell me if that's possible? And I actually spent some time on my parents' insurance page looking up whether or not they even covered it. Some things that the insurance will look for when you talk to your doctor, and during the first appointment, they'll go through a bunch of this stuff, but some things that generally the insurance will look for to verify you actually would legitimately benefit from it. They frequently look for stuff like back pain, trouble exercising. A lot of people will get divots in their shoulders from where their bra straps dig into their shoulders. Some people I know have gotten like rashes here from where their boobs sit on their rib cage. So there's kind of a lot of things to consider. But the thing is, your plastic surgeon, whatever doctor you end up going with, they want to help you get this procedure because, for one, they get paid. It's literally their job to do these kinds of surgeries. But also, they do understand that something like this can help your health overall and can help your quality of life in the long run. And it may not apply to everyone, and everyone may not be able to for various reasons, but your doctor does want to help with this. And so, if your doctor's on board, then they will generally try to get the insurance company on board. I had actually talked about this procedure with everyone close to me long before getting this appointment scheduled. I had talked about it with my parents and the guy I was dating at the time, and kind of just talking through like what it would mean for me, what they would have to do to help me with it, and all of that. So when I went in to talk to the doctor about the appointment, we got partially into the conversation, and I don't think he actually thought I was big enough to really need a reduction. And he was like, he brought out like a silicone breast implant, and was like, oh, this is about 500 cc's, grams, milliliters? 500 of whatever the measurement is, hang on. He was like, oh, you have to get 500 grams removed per breast. So like 500 here, 500 here. Do you think you could do that? And I was like, oh yeah, probably. Yeah, no big deal, I can do that. I wore oversized t-shirts and sweatshirts until pretty recently. And so when I started talking about, yeah, I'm gonna get a breast reduction, a lot of people were like, but you look fine. So during the discussion we talked, you know, you'd have to get about this much removed. Insurance doesn't cover less than that. And I was like, sure, no problem, doc, I got you. And we talked about nipple grafts, or a skin bridge. That's what I'm gonna call it. I don't know the exact name. I didn't get this one done, if you can't tell. But a nipple graft. There are two different ways to move the nipple up when you have a reduction. Because generally, in a larger breast, your nipple won't sit in the same spot once you get a smaller breast. It's just not realistic unless you have really high set nipples, but that's one of those things that it's generally like down. And mine were pretty even. I was gonna say, I don't know if this is TMI, but you're watching a video about my breast reduction. But generally, anyways, they have to move the nipple when they do the reduction, because all of a sudden there's less tissue and your nipple has to move to be proportionate. Depending on your measurement from where your rib cage, where your breast hits your rib cage to the nipple, right here. My doctor said his limit was 15 centimeters. So if you had less than 15 centimeters, what they would do is they would just cut this strip and just move it and then stitch it in. And the nice thing about that is you do retain more nipple sensitivity. I think there is also a higher chance for breastfeeding later on. I don't know. It's nipple, whatever. But they just move it, and a lot of the extra skin, extra flesh that was here just gets tucked into your boob tissue and just stays there basically. In the case of a nipple graft, if this measurement is over 15 centimeters, or 15 centimeters in my doctor's case, what they'll do is they'll remove the nipple, and so they have it over here chilling on an ice bath, and then they basically, this makes me super grossed out, but they skin the area they're gonna put it on, like a skinned knee, basically. And then they just pop it back on and sew it there. And the benefits of this is there's an increased chance of better blood flow, because if the skin bridge is too long, it can cause issues with one's blood flow, which you don't want. It's like really, really, really bad. I think I have 4 reallys on my script here that says really, 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 really bad. So if it dies, it's really, really, really bad. And then you also have to have a second surgery just to remove all the dead tissue, which nobody wants that. Nobody wants 2 surgeries. Man, that recovery time, you're never getting out of bed. So there is less chance, because you are grafting the skin, there is less chance, this is not where nipples go, but there's less chance of nipple sensitivity later on, and the ability to breastfeed. Those were very little importance to me. I really liked the blood flow option. I felt like that was the most important. I told my doctor, you know, whatever you think is the best option, please go for it. And when we did the measurements, this one for me was like dead on 15 centimeters on both sides. And so he was like, we're just gonna graft it and call it good. So when you go in for your measurements, you go into another room and they give you like this cheap hospital kimono looking thing, which allows you to open one side or the other or whatever. And so you take everything off from the waist up, and they take a measuring tape, which all of mine are somewhere right now, I don't know. Actually, there's one. They take a measuring tape, like this, and they use centimeters. This one has Sharpie stains, so I'm sorry. And they start by measuring to where, from the middle of your clavicle down to where the nipple is, on both sides. And then they also measure from your sternum to the nipple and underneath, like this. And this is where they tell you, oh yeah, where's the 15? 15 centimeters is the measurement. And so that's from right here to where the nipple is. I'm no longer that. So, and that's how they determine whether or not you need a skin graft. My voice cracked there, that was weird. That may have been all the measurements. Oh yeah, so remember how I said earlier the doctor was like, I don't know if you really need this, like, could you actually get this much removed? As soon as we got into the measurements, he was like, oh yeah, you're a good candidate, you're great for this. And I was like, well, I know I wouldn't have come in otherwise, like, I know that. So he left, and then the nurse and I started doing some paperwork, and it's really easy. It's literally like a half sheet of paper, and you just answer yes or no to a couple things. Don't freak out. It's super easy. And the nurse walked me through it all, and she was like, you know, have you tried massage therapy or exercising or this stuff to help get rid of back pain? And I was like, yeah, I've done the whole shebang. Like, did physical therapy in high school. I did this stuff. I did this stuff. And she was like, okay, cool. Have you tried weight loss? And I was like, if I lose weight, that's an issue. Like, I start to get underweight. That's not safe. And she was like, yeah, you're totally right. Don't do that. And we laughed. Like, if anything, I try to gain weight and muscle. The questions are pretty straightforward. Honestly, I felt like getting measured was more frustrating than the questions. The questions were all like, yeah, I've tried other things. I've done other things. I have tried. Do your breasts prevent you from normal activities or workouts? And I was like, my dude, if I run, I get hit in the face. Like, trust me, I tried. And then the office actually took care of the rest of the paperwork, so it was pretty easy on my part. I just showed up, more or less. Showed up and answered questions, and that's basically all you do in your first consultation. Your doctor may vary a little bit, but well, that's it. It's really easy.
Thank you guys for sticking around so long. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Again, subscribe for more, and we'll see you next week. Bye!